Okay, awesome. Guys, what I want to talk about today are three things that I've learned being a business operator for the past 12 plus years. First and foremost, I want to talk about what I would call the black hole that all growing businesses get sucked into. Second, I want to talk to you guys about the framework you can leverage to get 80% more effective with 40% of the effort. I'll help you do that math in a second. Third, and a big reason why you are here, I want to lay out the two key elements for modern businesses to actually grow in 2023 and how not to burn through your cash and your sanity doing it. If you are a growth leader and you're responsible for your business's growth and you have what we would call established traction, so you're not just getting your business started, but you've at least got some proof of value for your business, then you are definitely in the right place. Specifically, you will make the most of this session if you are in the B2B space, the services industry, with a decent level of ambition, a bit of an entrepreneurial mindset at the very least. If that is you, please stick around. You will definitely win back the time you spend here, at least fivefold. Over the last decade, I've spent countless hours optimizing operations and processes. I started my career in sales, became a business owner, started two agencies. I was able to sell one of those after 12 years, which I'm very proud of. And I became an operations coach to 100 plus founders and operators, teaching you how to do the same. I then joined Funnelytics as the COO to structure the operations of what you would call a SaaS startup and to further grow this amazing company. Over my career, I became fascinated with figuring out what it takes to create an operation that gets predictable results. And I'm looking to share some of that stuff with you guys today. Growth and growing a business is not easy. Mostly because people are darn expensive. And it takes people to build a team, and it takes a team to actually grow something from nothing. So I started my first business 14 years ago, something like that, with $0 in the bank account, just coming out of a burnout with a baby on the way. Now, you might say that's not, the smartest time to start a business. And I guess you're right. My biggest challenge at the time was having to do it all. Marketing, sales, project management, coding, design, copy, advertising. The worst part was I was not bad at it, but I massively undersold my value and basically traded my time for way too little dollars, which does not grow a business and definitely doesn't scale it. So how do you still grow a business on a budget? How do you get the help you need without burning through your cash flow or burning out in general? This is how it started for me. I spoke with a buddy of mine who knew a thing or two about sales, and I had very little cash. That quite a bit of leads, so I couldn't hire anyone full time. I did realize I spent a lot of time crafting proposals, but crafting proposals and following up with them, that took me a lot of time. I couldn't hire someone full time to do it. But my buddy was willing to craft proposals for me for $15 a pop. It was actually a pretty good deal. In the process, I saved myself about 2 and sometimes 6 hours a week just drafting up proposals and sending those out. And I asked him, you know what, just have me review it real quick and then send it out, look them up on LinkedIn, send a connection request and just say hi in my name. And what that started to teach me was that as we bootstrap a business, it's a slow process, and it's slow because we need to do all the work. And if we need to hire someone full time to do the work, that gap is massive to get over. And even when you start building out a bigger team, if you've got a bigger team that you're leading, adding another person to that team is always going to be a big expense to add on. So instead of me trying to figure out how can I create more budget, I was just making sure I could pay my own bills. I just looked at little tasks that I could delegate to someone else that they could charge a little bit of money for instead of hiring someone full time. So proposals, check. Connecting with people on LinkedIn, done. Doing my books, done. Crafting reports. I got some student that, came in half a day a week, wanted to make a little bit more money than he would make in the grocery store. And he did. And he crafted my reports for my client. And, step by step, I started to free up more and more time without hiring someone full time and allocating the cost to very specific tasks. So let's call that microservicing. Basically, instead of looking at a responsibility or a role in the business, I figured out how to delegate tasks, instead of hiring someone full time. And as I learned, this approach becomes even more important when we actually do hire people full-time. Now, it's funny, when we hire someone full-time and when we're looking to create this new role for our business, we do something really weird. We don't look at the stuff we actually want to get off our plate. We come up with a massive list of everything this person should and could be doing. I mean, think of this. Whenever you create a job description, how many of those bullet points were stuff that you're thinking, well, if they're going to come in, they may as well also do that, where you in the first place weren't even doing it yourself. What's funny about that is when we create this entire list of things that people should be doing and then hire someone full-time, we actually end up disappointed because that big list of responsibilities does not turn into a repetitive job. I learned that when hiring someone part-time or full-time, we should actually flip it and not create job description. And that was by this idea of microservicing that we need to start stacking tasks instead of creating jobs. Okay, let's build on that for a sec. This doesn't work. Hiring someone full-time, doesn't mean we can't do it, but we need to be more conscious of who we're bringing in and what for. I mean, this creative analytical thinker, that is, someone with either a split personality or they don't exist or they're massively expensive. So as we hire new people, instead of creating jobs, we need to reverse engineer the outcome. We need to consider what kind of tasks we want to get done. What do we want to have someone take off our hands? And that all starts with getting clear on what it is that you're actually looking to offload to someone else. I put together a framework that's helped me structure what kind of work someone should do and how it's going to benefit the business and whether I should actually delegate it. And I called it the DARE framework. Now, this framework should be your reference as you grow your business and as you grow your team to better understand how to expand and when to hire whom for what. Okay, let me explain this. So this is a four-way matrix. Now, don't be scared. Four-way matrices are awesome. It helps us understand where things fit. That vertical line there is what we can call the experience line. And the horizontal line, that is the money line. Now, we all love the money line, right? Now, let's make sure, though, that we know what side of the money line we like the most. With these icons on there, which side of the line do you like the most? Is that the left or the right? If you're thinking right, awesome. This is not a trick question. We all like having more money than having less, right? So we have our baseline. We like having money. That's established. Let's look at the vertical line. Experience is a result of time and practice, right? The challenge with experience, though, is that experience is expensive. And when we're growing a business or a team, experience is a bit too expensive to bring in, especially in those first stages, right? So the challenge with that is at the top, there's only going to be a few people that are going to be able to take care of that business because that experience is more rare than not having experience, right? But at the bottom, that's where many people with the right training could do the work. You remember the right side, our favorite side, right? That's where we make money. That means on the left side, that's the sucky side, right? That's where we're losing money. So basically, people we hire at the top of this line, we hire based on their experience. At the bottom, we hire them based on their practice of skills. On the left, that's what we call an overhead expense. And on the right, that is an operating expense. Okay, so, let's simplify this a bit. Simply put, the top requires experience, the bottom is teachable, the right is high value, and the left is low value, okay? Now, let's put some names to this. The bottom left, you can call that repetition. Anyone with the right training can do this. It's the somewhat mundane work in our business that is the same thing to do every time. The challenge with repetition is that it doesn't make us any money. It's costing us money, but it's still work that needs to get done. Reporting, accounting, filing our taxes, data crunching, right? Bottom right, though. And it's such a cool part about this matrix. Bottom right is expansion. Expansion is awesome. It is work that anyone with the right training can do. But the beauty of expansion is that every time you do more of it, it makes you more money. And the best thing yet, it is also repetitive, which is a fancy word for saying it's the same thing every time you do it. The more you can stack your expansion work, the more money you can make. So we want a lot of people to do this work because it brings in lots of money, right? So think about SEO articles to write, or posting on social media, hosting webinars like this, or even taking sales calls, right? It's stuff that we can teach people to do. To some extent, it's something that we can delegate. Top left, that's an interesting part. That's experienced work that doesn't immediately get us a return for our money. We can call that drive. Drive is the work that experienced people, which is probably you, by the way, experienced people need to deal with to keep the business going. It requires experience because it's non-repetitive. So you need to deal with things differently every time you face them. And it means that it's also expensive and it doesn't make you any money. These are all the people with fancy titles that we bring in, you know, UX designer, people that are in process optimization. It doesn't have an immediate return on investment, but it does require experience and knowledge to deal with, right? Okay, now this leaves us with high value work for experienced people in the top right. That's an important one. Top right, we can call acceleration. It's the type of work that every time you do it, it adds compounding value to your business. Compounding here, and that means that it will have a lasting value for the business even after you complete the work. So think here of creating a new marketing funnel, adding a new service to your offer, establishing a new process for expansion, right? Or making the decision to give up on certain aspects of your repetition. You know, that report that you're asking for that you're not actually looking at every month, right? So let's look at this as 4 blocks of work, right? These are the makings of our business. Probably you can already start thinking of the tasks that you and your business could fit into one of these squares, right? Or your colleague, or, you know, people that you feel are wasting their time. It probably is because they're in a different box than you. Okay. Anyway, keep in mind, the top 2 can only be done by few people. The bottom can be done by anyone. The right makes you money and the left costs you money. So ideally, we stack as much capacity in the bottom right to make the most money. We do only the truly essential things in the bottom left, because that's going to cost us money. We spend as little in the top left as possible to keep our profit margins up. And the executive in the business, the leaders of the company, they spend their time in the top right. Right, now, let me ask you a question. If you're in that position of growth lead, right? If you're running the business, growing your business, are you spending most of your time on acceleration? Or are you stuck in some of these other boxes as well? My goal is to get you to think about this, right? So of all these things that you're doing throughout your work week, how many hours are you actually spending on accelerating the business? A lot of us get stuck in the other boxes, right? Truth is, I found that a lot of business owners actually spend way too much time in these blue boxes here. Not enough in the red one, or orange, whatever. Well, obviously, there's always a drag towards drive, Chris, because there is people with knowledge and experience that need to do the work, and it's most likely you, unless you're able to delegate it to someone else that's expensive. So it doesn't mean we can't do drive. It just means we need to also be consciously acting on acceleration, right? That means this red or orange box is important. Let's box them up. Let's make a quick realization here. Some of you got a team put together, right? You ever had that meeting where you said, all right, let's do some out of the box thinking? Remember that meeting? Maybe a past employer, or maybe you called for one in your business. Really, when we have those out of the box meetings, we're looking for acceleration of the business. Really, there's only 3 types of actual work. Acceleration, that's outside the box. Drive, repetition, and expansion are inside the box. The acceleration is up to growth leadership, and they need to play outside the box. That's their job. It's what they should be good at. It's what they should be getting up in the morning for, right? It's what we get excited about. So does that then by definition mean that everyone else that is getting paid on payroll or as a contractor is thinking inside the box? Well, yes, that is their job. And they'll also find it pretty hard to look outside of the box. Well, for one, that's probably not what you hired them for. Two, they probably don't have that experience. And three, they may not even enjoy it because they like their box. So when we're expecting our team to just get it, they won't. Not if it's not in their box. And when we expect our team to come up with some really contributing ideas that are going to help move the needle for the company, that are all going to be ideas that apply to their box. It's not going to be outside the box. Now, realizing this only took me like 8 years of entrepreneurship, so you're allowed to call me stubborn. But this realization has helped me in 3 ways. I got less disappointed by the expectations I set for my team because they simply weren't realistic. I ended up having a happier and more fulfilled team because they like playing in the box. And I got much more clear on what I needed from existing and new team members for myself and for them. But this is where you get 80% more effective with 40% of the effort by reallocating your time, understanding you need to focus on acceleration, and delegating some of the parts in the other boxes. So this is where it gets interesting, right? When we look at our different assets across our business or our different verticals, the different stages where we take a client through, there's opportunities across every asset to create repetitive work to clear your plate or even add more revenue to your bank account. Let's look at this. There's executive tasks to make you more effective. There's marketing tasks to expand your audience. Sales tasks to increase your close rate. Okay. Success tasks where servicing and retaining your clients is key. And finally, there's the backbone of your business. Operations, HR, and finance. Okay. When we look at all these different steps here, there's so many things that are actually repetitive about our business if we put some thought into it. Now, if we look at these 4 types of work, don't worry, I'll come back to that slide in a bit. We look at these 4 types of work in these 4 different colors, it's more easy to draw up what our work week actually looks like. So I put together a worksheet that I'd love to send you. And this worksheet will help you categorize your work, figure out your drivers, your repeaters, your expanders, and accelerators. So do me a quick favor, jump onto that link, KevlexAcademy.com/worksheet. So you can download that and start figuring out what you want your work week to look like. Because when you map this out, you're going to see some colors pop up. So when we look at these colors here, then what does that look like? Is that, a work week in which you're actually idling and spending a lot of time on repetitive tasks and a little bit of expansion? Is that you driving the business where you're also spending a little bit of time on acceleration and drive? Are you progressing? Are you actually, pushing the business forward, and have you balanced that out? Or are you in a place where you can accelerate the business and very little of your time is spent on repetition and expansion because you've been able to delegate it? You want to chat about this? I'd love to. It's questions like that get me going in the morning. I'd be happy to take a call with you guys to talk about this further. Before we dive into that, though, let's look at some takeaways. I'll pop that link in a little bit in the chat as well. First, repeaters will always cost you money, but delegating this will clear up a ton of your time. Keep in mind, I can't remember who did the research, but apparently on average, we spent 23% of our work week on email. Think about that for a second. Remember when I said clearing up a day a week? If we just didn't have email, we'd have an extra day in the week. That's nuts to realize, right? Repetition, though, is essential for stakeholder alignment. Don't stop doing this. You just got to make sure it's essential work. I remember bringing someone into the business. I wanted to see all the numbers and understand all the reports and make sure we were making a profit on every second of the day. Turns out that I was losing money on the report because it cost me more money to craft the report than I was making more money by looking at it. Make sense? It means we're over-reporting and over-engineering the outcome. Don't do that, okay? It needs to be essential. It needs to be valuable. You want to keep driving. Only hire drivers when you really, really have to. They're expensive and they won't make you money. Now, we need management because we can't do it all by ourselves. But think of the balance. How much management do we want in our business, and how much are they supposed to manage? Are they an actual manager? Think about that. How many managers do we know that don't actually manage anything? They just do work, right? They're specialists, not managers. Anyway, if there's too many, maybe your business is just too complicated. Something to think about as well, right? Number 3, key to grow your business. Identify your expanders. Please fill up this capacity because that is repetitive growth. What is it that you can do over and over and over that is the same thing every time you do it? And every time you do it, it makes you more money. Fill up that capacity and keep filling it up to the extent that you can do more, no more of it. That's how you grow your business, okay? Number 4, anything that requires acceleration requires business leadership. They're the ones that convert ideas into implementation. This might suck a bit because you might feel like you're not that great at implementing ideas, but that is your job as a leader, okay? Realize it, run with it, make the most of it. Let's look at the 4 steps to growing a business. I think some of the people on here have gone through a growth cycle before, maybe 2 or maybe 12, I don't know. Maybe you can drop in the chat, how many growth cycles have you guys gone through? That looks a little bit like this. You know, finding a new means to push in more clients, making that, consistent, dealing with that stuff, and then creating some stability in your operation to go from 5 to 6 figures, 6 to multiple 6 to 7 to 8. For us to grow a business, we need to adapt our leadership first by making a decision to push for growth. The results need to follow that decision. We need to get more clients than we can actually handle. Then the operation needs to adapt by being agile. So we're not going to over-engineer the expectation. We're just going to deal with it. It sucks for operational people, but we will persevere. So we have to be agile, and then we stabilize when we see it's actually consistent, okay? When we stabilize, we create more capacity. We can push for another cycle. That's how we grow a business. Simply put, we need to push for growth, prove our growth, endure that growth, and then adapt to it so we can continuously go through this cycle, both on the commercial side of the business and then the operational side of the business to deliver on it. Truth is, though, these cycles are expensive. There's the cash to push and prove for our growth. There's the production capacity to consider. There's overhead, and there's morale to consider. And this is, I mentioned the black hole, right? This is where we get stagnant in our growth. It's when one of these 4 steps in the cycle break. What happens when we do them in the wrong order? When we hire too much staff? What if, we get opportunistic and we're thinking, this is amazing. We are going to make so much money. And then you launch and you've created the capacity to deal with those, 3 dozen extra clients, and you hire 2 more people to deal with them. And then there's no clients when we're burning capital. It's where we spend a ton of overhead figuring all that stuff out without proof. We're opportunistic and impatient. We sometimes over-engineer our processes before we prove them. We may hire the wrong people at the wrong time. And we may hire based on a shred of proof instead of some consistency. Does that sound familiar? That is the black hole that small businesses get stuck in. Any business could get stuck in. Because again, growth is expensive, not just because you need to spend money on ads. It's because you need to grow the business and deal with that at the right time with the right people. We need to keep a clear head so we can be, available. We need to retain morale to keep our budgets tight. We need to have the capacity to grow. We need to stay on top of acceleration. Don't just put your head down and get the work done. We need to keep driving, minimize repetition, and double down on expansion to grow the business in the right order. You want to talk about that? How to plan ahead for it? I've done it a couple times. I'm doing this again. I'll drop this link in the chat a little bit. At the end of the day, cash is king. And I like this one. A healthy runway is the fun way to build and grow a business, which is a challenge when you're looking to hire more people. Now, we were supposed to talk about AI and VAs today, right? We're 30 minutes in. We hardly spoke about them. I'll get to it now. There is a way to de-risk growth cycles by a ton. To grow our business, it's not just about being smart with our marketing and sales effort. It can grow our business much more effectively by de-risking these growths. And this is the two elements that modern businesses leverage to grow their B2B business in 2023. I only realized this perfect marriage between microservices and virtual assistants when I started working for Funnelytics. Keep in mind, I ran an agency in the Netherlands where I sold stuff to Dutch people and I needed to hire Dutch people to read Dutch emails and reply back in the Dutch language, who also lived in the Netherlands where we have a certain amount of money we need to make, right? Then I joined this amazing company called Funnelytics where everybody speaks English. The market opened up and I was able to start thinking about the idea of taking microservices and getting VAs to help me deliver on that. So I took those principles, I tested it out, messed it up a couple of times because I had the wrong people, didn't set up the right processes, but I got it to work. And then I got it to work for me, team members, for the business. So as a result, Funnelytics has become very, 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 very efficient as a company. Now it's 2023, and now AI has become accessible to the masses. So I'll preach for a second. Remote work, virtual assistants, and AI are not the future. They are now. Consider that virtual assistants are also available in non-Western countries with a different standard of living. So that means we can also find people to work with from non-Western countries that can provide a very affordable form of support, allowing you to grow your company and your team on a structured budget. Hiring staff locally in a Western country, even at a junior level, is going to set you back, what, $2,500 a month for a junior, right? That is 30 grand a year. If not more, there's taxes and company costs and whatnot. Depending on where you source for talent, you can get amazing support from a virtual assistant for maybe part-time $500 a month. That is 80% less than what you would spend on a Western resource. Now, you might say, well, I've tried that. There's some challenges with understanding the context of my business and, I'm missing some creativity there. But that's where AI gets amazingly powerful. When you're having a challenge with context, have ChatGPT create some context. Hey, ChatGPT, can you please process this email and summarize for me in bullets what actions this client would like to have taken care of? You do this for every request coming in, you're not going to miss anything anymore. Hey, ChatGPT, what's an empathetic way of saying we'll get back to this person without committing to anything just yet? They'll craft you a human response as a reply to emails. Even creating opportunities is becoming easier because, you can just ask ChatGPT how to reply back to this person to get them to book a call with us without being too pushy and salesy, right? It's becoming more and more about asking the right questions with a purpose in mind, where we reverse engineer the outcome we're looking for. So what questions should I ask my boss to get a better understanding of how to most effectively manage her calendar? You write this up. Your VA writes this up. That's what we call it process. These are my boss's answers to those questions you gave me. Can you create me an SOP that details this out in a step-by-step decision-making format? Creating processes and SOPs is no longer complicated because they are available. Google for them or, ask ChatGPT to create them for you. It's becoming a task to craft a process. It's no longer a project, right? Even getting a pay raise like this, based on this SOP, how can I report on effectively running this process on a weekly basis to tell my boss I'm doing a great job? That's how you get a pay raise, right? You just got to ask the right questions to get it. What we need to stop doing is we need to stop creating job descriptions. What we need to start doing is stack microservices. The responsibilities of the people you work with should actually be repeatable tasks that ideally fit into the expansion or the repetition box. I said it before, it doesn't stop at bookkeeping or email. There's a ton of repetitive work to delegate to a VA, as long as you have those processes carved out. Each and every one of these have a start, an end, and a system to work in, and a tangible output to report on. You leverage this, you want to push for another growth cycle, do the work first. Don't over-engineer it, keep it simple, and be lean about it. You get stuck on something new, create a process. Now, I started with this by saying you get a bonus. Again, if we spend 23% of our work on email, and you want to get that work day a week back, get a VA to manage your inbox to your calendar. It will save you a ton of time. For Western standards, it's not even that expensive. Depending on the experience levels and whether you hire someone part-time or full-time, depending on where you hire them, That's going to cost you anywhere between $200 and $3,500 a month, full-time VA, right? Now, keep in mind, this is awesome, right? I'm pretty sure some of you are thinking, oh, I should do this. Here is the challenge. Turns out VAs are just like real people. That's a joke. They're obviously real people. Their success, no, your success working with them does not depend on their experience and their skill set. It depends on your structure and the instructions you put together to get the work you want. Here's how VAs still get expensive. When you expect your VA to have all the answers to all of your questions, they're not a $200,000 person. You're not going to have all the answers. When you hire a VA full-time without a full-time plan, you're stuck thinking through, oh, so much more I should be asking this person, but I just can't get to it. So don't hire full-time. Don't expect your VA to also do 1,000,001 things. Don't expect them to be fully proactive. They're also going to be reactive because you need to feed the requests. Please don't forget to train your VA on a clear process or get very clear on what you want as a process. If you do actually forget that stuff and you don't do this, that's how VAs still become very expensive. The true key to unlocking the great VA's potential is great onboarding and proper training. And that doesn't just, apply to VAs. This goes for staff in general. I mean, I did some interviews. People spend full-time month training staff. They feel like new people are productive after about 3 months. And then there's the risk of them quitting on us as well. This is why growth is so darn expensive. We don't prep. We don't take the time to structure it. And then people may just quit. This is disastrous for small businesses and small teams. Now, retention of talent and retention of the processes are how we build the value of the business. So 2 things you should change when you hire VA. Change what you're spending on support. It's half the cost that you spend on a full-time employee in the Western countries, and the thought you put into their work. Use that DARE framework to start stacking microservices instead of creating new job descriptions with 22 dozen types of responsibilities they should be taken care of. You do these 2 things, reduce your spend, put thought into their work with the framework. You can grow your business with much less risk, right? Because you're not spending time, overhead, and all those expenses on going through these steps, freeing up your own time and whatnot to get to the next phase of your business. You're not going to burn up your capital and you're not going to lose your sanity. I've been able to spend a lot less time reading my emails, Slack, reporting, prepping for meetings, taking notes, replying to emails, managing my overall workload. It's what Mitch has helped me with. This is all so I can spend time accelerating the business, doubling down on growth through sales and partnership for Funnelytics. For Mikhail, CEO, as CEO, his time is best spent making sure Funnelytics keeps making money. So, ideally, he's also in touch with some new investors and he's strategizing for the next stage of the business with product marketing and the leadership team. He cannot do that if he's spending time sending out emails, crunching finances, and keeping an eye on Slack over. Even having unstructured meetings. You had a meeting last week. You still know what that's about. Without taking notes, you may forget. Look at Bailey. She's responsible for the thousands of people using the platform of Funnelytics every day. If she spent her time dealing with support tickets, she'd never spend her valuable meeting time with high-profile clients, making sure they stick around. There's a ton of repetitive work to delegate to a VA, as long as you have those processes carved out, okay? It'll make your calendar go from this to this. You can focus on acceleration, or maybe take a vacation. Would have been a while for some of you, right? In preparation of this webinar, I asked Mitch to help me with a ton of stuff. And she took hours of work off my plate, right? And it feels a bit silly to share Slack messages, but just to give you a little bit of a taste of how that works for me, I said, hey, Mitch, I created an event on LinkedIn for the webinar. Looks like we have 19 people that said they want to join. How can I make sure they actually get invited via email? All right. Well, she took care of it. I was pretty clear on what I wanted, where to find it, and she did it. Hey, can you double check my calendar's availability and make sure it has the right slots for people to book sales calls? Done. Can you write up the qualifying email? ChatGPT. She doesn't have to think about it. You can go to ChatGPT, get a draft, see if it's actually proper, type of email I would send out, get that ready. And then, for every call scheduled, can you check whether people are part of the community yet? And if not, 4 hours after they schedule their call, send her an email that they should consider joining the community. Here's the link. Please write something based on an example email. Done. Can we send her a reminder for people's calls when they schedule them via SMS or WhatsApp 10 minutes before their call? Done. And this will get back. Noted. I'll add these to our notes. Should I draft a message for Eric? Pepita, we had a chat. Mitch making sure we have a follow-up. Matt, I'm not sure if you're here, but we're going to be talking as well because, we had a chat and Mitch is making sure we have another one. Being this thorough and diligent was a trait that I vetted Mitch on, hired her on, and wanted to make sure I kept cultivating and appreciating, because that's how we get to the best of working together, right? So here's the stuff I get back. I'll work on it. Oh, there you go. ChatGPT. I'll make sure I create it and then tweak it a bit. This has taken so much work off my plate and has made my work a lot more fun as well. I mean, she's very eager to learn. We're still expanding on knowledge and improving processes and overall skill set every day. But this has been a very liberating mode of operating for me, because it's helped me basically clear up so much time in my week that I can think, consciously decide what to do next, and not forget half the stuff I usually forgot, because she keeps reminding me of stuff that I forgot. At the end of the day, this is what's made the biggest difference in me running the business and working with people across different departments. Here, she's even helped me prep for my sales calls, right? Here's what I found about this person. Here's, the background on their business. I don't need to do all this research anymore. She's taking care of this. And I get this message, I think it's 10 minutes, Mitch, before every sales call, right? Just so I'm prepared, right? My recommendation, get an AI-powered virtual assistant. Find that zone of excellence. Create your structure, repeatable processes, be smart about leveraging AI, and get a properly vetted virtual assistant. Delegate repetition and expansion so you can accelerate, because that's your job, right? If you want to get started, then consider hiring for tasks, not responsibilities. Start off with delegating your email inbox and calendar. Keep it simple. Run a simple SOP to maybe take some reporting off your plate and just get started, because you can build from there. Then rinse and repeat. Grow big. Build your VA empire. Go nuts. Or, consider having a chat with me. I've been able to establish a ton of processes, SOPs, and through some great vetted partnerships, I have a pool of VAs that's ready to get started with you. I'd personally make sure they got trained and dialed in for your business. I started a new business called Kevlex Academy. I feel that there's so many offers in the market out there to help you grow your business, which is really just a means of getting more sales and marketing done. There's not a lot of support for you to run the business, means for you to structure it. Thinking about, how do you put work where, with whom, what kind of teams do I need? How to hire people? Building a business is hard. I've coached over 100 business owners. And I also found that direction is not valuable. It's execution of that direction that's valuable, which is hard, right? Because you're busy. That's why I wanted to combine it with the other asset. I want to help people grow their business. And actually, I'm looking to take on 10 businesses in the next 2 weeks and get them going with their digital operation. And not just look at, a sense of direction. I want to provide them the resources and get them the VA they need, clear up the time and get going. It was the feedback I got on my accountability calls. And, I know some of you guys are on here is, life got in the way. I didn't get around to it. Of course not, because we're all busy and we don't have a VA, right? So I'd love for you to 3 months from now, think back and say, I can't believe I ran my business like that. What was I thinking?